The installation of split-type air conditioners is very important. Please make sure that the installation work is conducted properly. In this video, you will learn how to install DAIKIN's split-type air conditioner properly. We hope it will prove useful in your installation work. This is a table comparing three types of refrigerants: R22, R410A and R32. The ozone depletion potential for R410A and R32 is 0, while that for R22 is 0.05. The global warming potential for R32 is lower than that for R22 and R410A by roughly 30 to 40%. Both R22 and R32 are a single-component refrigerant, while R410A is a mixture of two types of refrigerants. The refrigerant oil used in R22 air conditioners is mineral oil, while that used in R410A and R32 air conditioners is synthetic oil. The pressure ratio for R410A and R32 refrigerants is 1.6 times that for R22 refrigerant. If refrigerant oil is mixed with another type of oil in an air conditioner, it causes a problem. Therefore, the service port which is connected to the pressure gauge is a different size for each type of refrigerant, namely a 1/4 inch port for R22 and a 5/16 inch port for R410A or R32. For the reasons mentioned above, R410A and R32 air conditioners should be handled with care. This video explains the important points in order of precedence that need to be taken into consideration during the installation work. This shows the procedures involved when installing split-type air conditioners. This video explains the installation work by the specific procedure in the actual order it is done. First, let's look at the primary tools you will need when doing the installation. Here you can see a level, pipe cutter, reamer, file, flaring tool, flare size gauge, vacuum pump, gas leak detector, weight scale, digital thermometer, torque wrench, gauge manifold. These are gas cylinders for R32 refrigerant. There are no fixed colours for refrigerant gas cylinders. This is a charging valve. These tools can be commonly used for R32 and R410A refrigerants. Now, let's go over the procedure for installing the indoor unit. Let's look at how to attach the indoor unit's mounting plate. The mounting plate is smaller than the indoor unit, so decide its location taking the size of the indoor unit into account. Also decide ahead of time on which side of the indoor unit the piping through hole will be made. Once you have decided where the mounting plate will be attached, temporarily place a screw in the center to secure the plate. Place the level on the mounting plate to make sure it is level. Once this is done, firmly tighten the screw on the center of the mounting plate so that the plate does not move. After that, secure the plate with the 5 remaining screws as shown on the screen. Now, you should have attached the plate firmly with a total of 6 screws. Finally, check that the mounting plate is firmly attached. Now, let's look at how to open up the piping through hole. If running the piping through the right side, use this part on the mounting plate and the tape measure to determine the center of the through hole. If running the piping through the left side, do it this way. The diameter of the through hole is 65 mm. So, use a 65 mm hole saw to open up the through hole. When opening up the through hole, do it in a downward diagonal direction, from indoors to outdoors, to help the drain water flow smoothly and prevent rainwater from running along the piping into the indoor area. Let's look at how to prepare to install the indoor unit. Take the indoor unit out of the packing case and place it on a level surface. Open the front panel and remove the cover of the control wiring connection component. Remove the clamps that are used to secure the wiring sheath. Now, prepare the control wiring that connects the indoor unit and outdoor unit. If the wiring length is shorter than 10 meters, use a 2 square millimeter wire. If it is 10 meters or longer, use a 3.5 square millimeter wire. Run the prepared control wiring from the rear of the indoor unit to the front side. Peel the wiring sheath. Twist the wiring and connect it to the wiring connection terminal. While doing this, note the color and terminal number to which the wiring is connected. This is done in order to align the terminal number with that of the outdoor unit to be connected afterwards. After connecting the wiring to the terminal, make sure it is taut and secure the sheath with a clamp. Now, reattach the cover of the control wiring connection component. Close the front panel. Turn the indoor unit over and take out the piping. Wrap the refrigerant piping, drain piping and control wiring with vinyl tape in 3 spots. When doing this, be sure to position the drain piping on the bottom. This completes the preparation needed before installing the indoor unit. First, run the control wiring through the piping through hole. Next, lift the indoor unit up and run the piping and wiring through the hole. Be sure to place the drain piping on the bottom to allow the drain water to flow smoothly. Hook the upper portion of the indoor unit onto the upper portion of the mounting plate first, and then place the lower portion of the indoor unit onto the hook on the lower portion of the mounting plate to securely mount the indoor unit. To detach the front grille, first unscrew the 2 screws under the flap. Then, unhook the upper portion of the grille and pull it out. Next, secure the bottom portion of the indoor unit to the mounting plate with the 2 screws. Now, let's decide where to place the outdoor unit. When installing the outdoor unit directly on the ground, place it on blocks. When doing so, be sure to create the necessary distance, or in other words, the service space, between the outdoor unit and the surrounding wall or the like. In accordance with the installation manual, have at least 10 centimeters from the back and 5 centimeters from the side of the outdoor unit to allow for sufficient service space. Now go outside. Bend the refrigerant piping, drain piping and control wiring toward the outdoor unit without crushing the piping. Be sure to place the drain piping on the bottom. Remove the decorative piping cover on the outdoor unit. Now, prepare the refrigerant piping to connect the indoor and outdoor units. Refer to this table for the correct piping thickness. Measure the distance of the piping route between the indoor unit and outdoor unit to obtain the piping length. Cut the piping roughly 30 centimeters longer than the length you have just obtained. Protect both ends of the piping with tape. Insert the piping into the insulation. Remove the indoor unit's flare nut and protect the flare joint with tape. Remove the outdoor unit's flare nut in the same way and protect the joint with tape. Let's look at work on the refrigerant piping. It is necessary to conduct the flaring while adhering to the 3 principles of refrigerant piping: dry, clean and tight. When the piping is cut, the end surface will develop burrs. Remove these using a reamer and file. Be sure to face the piping end downwards during this process to prevent any filings from getting inside. These are photos before and after burr removal. Now, conduct flaring to connect the piping. First, slide the flare nuts that you have removed from the indoor and outdoor units onto the piping. Note that the piping diameter will be larger after flaring, so the flare nuts cannot be slid onto the piping after flaring. Create the flare using a flaring tool. Set the piping inside the flare. Adjust the piping allowance and secure it firmly. The standard allowance ranges between 0 and 0.5 mm, but this will differ according to the flaring tool. After setting the piping in the flaring tool, create the flare by rotating the handle. Confirm the quality of the completed flare. Check the flare size using a flare size gauge. If the size of the completed flare is larger or smaller than the flare size gauge, redo the flare according to the instructions of the flaring tool manufacturer. If the size is appropriate, check for any flare deformations, dirt and dust, or scratches on the flare. Let's connect the refrigerant piping between the indoor unit and outdoor unit. First, manually tighten the indoor unit side flare nut for the larger piping. Next, use torque wrenches to tighten the nut to the desired torque. Be sure to use 2 wrenches when tightening. If you do not have torque wrenches, you may use normal wrenches. When tightening with normal wrenches, first turn the nut as far as you can by hand. Then use 2 wrenches to tighten the nut until it suddenly becomes difficult to turn. Finally, further tighten it precisely to the angle shown in the table. Using the same procedures, now tighten the nut for the smaller piping.